Hi, I'm Christina Malone, and this is William Lay. We're the co-owners here at All Body Strong. All Body Strong is a size-inclusive strength and boxing gym here in Portland, Oregon. Do you want to talk a little bit about the classes that we feature?
So we are mostly a group fitness class-based gym. We have everything from yoga, which is more focused on the relaxation side of things, all the way up to higher intensity classes such as boxing and power up, which is kind of a mixture of conditioning with some Olympic and powerlifting concepts thrown in.
And then we're located here in Northeast Portland, just off MLK and Failing, which is just up from Fremont Street. What's one challenge you're facing and how can the community help? One of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is when you're running a small business, you get to be very close with the community around you. And sometimes when we're trying to do all the events that we can possibly do and really meet the most amount of needs, sometimes we can't do everything for all the people all the time. And I think just understanding and support that, especially in the first year or 2 years when a small business is growing, that just understand that we are doing the absolute best that we can to meet the needs of the most number of people. But there just, of course, are limitations, whether it's financial or time or otherwise, and that we really just are always trying to do the most that we can while keeping the business open.
You know, you get like 80% of people who are like loving what you're doing, they're really supportive of what you're doing. And you get like 15% who are very vocal about what you're not doing. I think that's one thing for community to understand is like, don't try to get your business that you love so much to do everything. Because if you try to be everything to everyone, you're going to become nothing to no one. You're going to eventually fail. And that's the thing with a lot of businesses, people don't realize that most businesses fail in the first 1 to 2 years. You know, so if you push your business that you love so much to be discounts, drop free, this, that, what you're going to end up doing is making that business dry out its cash flow and then close. And that doesn't help anyone. What is your top piece of advice for small business owners just starting out?
Understand your cash flow needs. Be really honest about it, like really honest in terms of, what do you need to keep your own personal life afloat and what do you need in respect to how much the business needs to generate. So being really clear in terms of what you need, what does the business need? Do you want to run events? Do you want to have social media managers? What do you need to make your business successful? Not just kind of the nuts and bolts of what do you need to open the doors. And so really being kind of cognizant of like all of those factors. The obvious ones are obviously a little bit easier to hit, but really taking that time to think through all that and then make sure that like your cash flow matches that. And if it's not your immediate cash flow, is your projected cash flow.
I'd say the other piece of advice that I give people, and this is one that I got from actually just a person on YouTube, and I really respected what he said. Don't listen to the naysayers. Ignore the naysayers, especially your own, the one that's in your head. Because the best bit of advice is if it's something that's never been done, or it's something, even if it's something has been done, but you're doing it in a completely different way, ignore what everyone else is going to tell you. Ignore the people who are telling you it's a hobby job. Ignore the people that are telling you you're buying yourself a job. Ignore those because you're probably not doing any of those things. You're probably creating something that could be very, very important for your community. And if you listen to the naysayers, it'll never get off the ground.
Yeah, I think to kind of piggyback on that as well, not listening to the naysayers, I think is an important thing, especially if you're doing something unique and novel.
Yeah.
So as we said in the beginning, All Body Strong is a size-inclusive gym. Obviously, we're fat-bodied folks. So we are both fat-bodied athletes, have been into athletics and as lifters and trainers and coaches for 24 years, yeah. And so this is something that to be a fat-bodied business owner can be a bit of a naysaying, attracting factor, so to speak, just because, particularly in fitness, because we really are flipping the script of what does it look like to not only be in fitness, but to be a community leader in fitness and a business owner and athletes, coaches, driving the sport forward. And so we're not just saying, hey, let us play on your team. No, we want to coach the team. We run the team.
What is the best part of being a small business owner? I think what we both, and I'm not going to speak for Christina, but I'm going to say in general, watching our clients do things that they thought were not possible. I've been coaching for almost 4.5 years. Watching my clients who come into me and say like, oh my gosh, I'm so weak. And then you throw like 100 pounds in their hand and you have them do a deadlift. And the minute you do that, their brain just shuts down because they didn't know they could do it. We get to see it together every day.
Seeing people walk into a space like this and made the comments, oh, I thought this was a joke. I thought you weren't real. People have just been really surprised that this is actually a space that was created so intentionally for fat bodies. But again, to that size inclusivity piece, just that, honestly, that was the best part, was being able to see a need in the community and fill that need. And then have it become a space that isn't just welcoming to one type of person. Our client range runs the gamut in terms of body size, body diversity, body type diversity, age range diversity, gender identification, LGBTQIA. And so just getting to build a space that has that kind of inclusivity at its core, and being able to make the decisions around that. Whereas if you're in someone else's space, you're always a little bit beholden to what their mission statement is, their bottom line. Whereas here, we really made the intentional point of saying, well, we're going to drive those decisions here. So we're able to be reactive to the community as the community's needs might change. I think that's one of those things that's really been lovely to be able to do. Just like, oh, do you have a need? Awesome, let's fill it. So have you heard of Merchant Maverick?
Honestly, I don't know if I have. What's funny though is when I was looking through some of the videos on YouTube, I think I might have actually viewed some when I was going through a master's certificate program. I actually ran into some of those videos as I was looking for other things. The logo looked familiar, and then I saw some of the faces of people talking in the videos. I'm like, this looks oddly enough familiar. And I haven't had a chance to go through my master's stuff, but I'm wondering if some of it was in there.
We both recognize the logo, and I'm pretty sure I've seen a few blog posts here and there. So it was kind of nice to be like, oh yeah. Every type of business that you run, depending on what you're providing, of course, is going to have different things that are specific to that business. Restaurants are going to be vastly different from service-based providers. Service-based providers are going to be vastly different from product-based providers. Here we are obviously a service-based provider. And so really what we're doing is as a gym, we need to make sure that we have enough to support the services that we're running. I would say the differences with small gyms are needing to be very cognizant and reactive to what your clientele's needs are, and understanding that could change month to month, season to season, time, temporality, the type of the classes, when they're offered, how we offer them, class sizes, what are the needs that are going on around, like, is there something outside that could be impeding the way that our clients come into the gym, weather, smoke, heat, all of those things. Yeah. So for us with running a small business and that's a gym, we had to really think through what are barriers that could either prevent a client from wanting to walk through the door, or for folks who just might have otherwise not felt comfortable in a gym would make them not want to come into a specific space. So we thought of things like parking. Yeah. So we have 10 parking spaces in the back of the building. That's unheard of in Northeast Portland to have parking spaces. But if you had to park really far away from the gym and walk a half a block or a block, and even if it's a shorter distance, that's like every step you take is like one more step that could keep you from wanting to come through the doors. Plus heat, rain, all the jazz with that. We made sure to pick a building that had a really good climate control. So AC and heat was really important to us in the building, so we can make people feel comfortable.
One thing I always tell people, especially whether it's a gym or it's any business, know your statistics and know what those statistics say, because statistics can change depending on who and how you ask it. Yeah. But know what is your business failure rate? What is your barrier to entry? I went specifically into entrepreneurship and learning about what are some of the nitpicky little things that we need to look at? And that is the one thing that I had to figure out was, what is the barrier to entry for this gym? And it is vastly different than the barrier to entry for a restaurant or even a brick and mortar product store. Barrier entry for gyms is really low. It actually is. The cost and the barrier to get in is super, super affordable. But the failure rate is 81% in that first year. And it goes down to 70% in the second year. So you don't see an actual, what I would call a true success percentage rate until your third and fourth year. Whereas with restaurants, most of them see that failure rate in year 2. They usually survive year 1, especially if they have good cash flow. Year 2, their cash flow is drained. They're not bringing in the clients. They start to fail. Knowing those numbers and how they translate to you is super critical, because it allows you to take out the correct amount of loan, know your loan rates, know your amortization, and all of those little details. And those are things that her and I did when I did most of the footwork, because she works a full-time job. Mm-hmm. But I got all this stuff together, and then her and I sat down and we're like, okay, let's check the boxes. So that when we came in, we knew that our barrier to entry was low, but we knew that our failure rate was really high. So how do we mitigate that? Yeah. And that was, like she said, knowing where your services are, knowing what you're doing, really tie it in. Opening a business in Portland, Oregon is not cheap.
It's challenging.
Taxation is high from the city, from the county, and the state. So, realistically, if you're looking at the numbers, it's not smart. But if you're opening somewhere that's cheaper, you may not have clients.
Yeah. I would say for us, we really do have a vision of bringing All Bodies Strong to as many spaces as possible.
Yeah.
So we do have thoughts in big pie in the sky dreams of being able to expand it, not just beyond the immediate Portland area, but other cities. One of the things that we're seeing change across the country is this concept of looking at fat phobia and body negativity and the issues that we see around it, and really saying, hey, this is really not a great way for us to continue to live. And I think that gym spaces play an integral role in that, because it should be something that is accessible to all bodies. And we were very intentional with choosing the name All Body Strong. We are very much a size inclusive space. We don't want to be exclusive to any one particular body style. That being said, obviously, I think we're going to attract a certain, wedge of the population, but the goal is to see that wedge grow. And I think the concept of allyship is such a big thing, because we need to normalize seeing fat bodies in motion. And if you aren't used to seeing it, how else are you going to see it if you're not in a gym where you ever see it moving? If you only see it one time on a TV, or once in the Olympics come around every 4 years, you see one of the heavyweight weightlifters doing something. But if you don't normalize, what does a heavy body look like just moving around the world around you? And that needs to be in places where you're going to go every day, restaurants, your gyms, walking around the world, and trying to dismantle it from that perspective. For me, being able to bring All Bodies Strong to multiple locations, and maybe even eventually folding in services that kind of tie into our central mission statement around, how do we continue to help bigger bodies live a better life?
I see all bodies wellness. The term wellness has been used negatively for so long. You have these wellness centers. I think a lot of younger women, it's harder to fathom, but like a lot of older women in their 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, wellness centers in the 80s and 90s were huge. You wouldn't go to a gym, you'd go to a wellness center where you'd get a spa treatment and a detox to help you burn fat. You'd do some core building to help you burn that belly fat. And that was a huge thing. So I think like the idea of taking all bodies even bigger, like Christina said, and adding services, turning it into a place where instead of going in and having to fit into this little wedge of the world, you are going in and you're learning how to move your body. You're getting acupuncture. You're meeting with your physical therapist. You're meeting with a chiropractor. You may be meeting with a nail technician who is like in our wonderful wedge of the world, our head boxing coach is a nail tech. Maybe those are the things you see. And like, I think that's what I see for all bodies. Like Christina said, taking it to this big level where there's like possibly even services involved. But more than that, I think for me, I just want to see all bodies become what Christina and I know it can be, which is a space where we change how people look at fitness. We flip it up on its head, and we let people know that it's okay to be who you are.
Ties back really the central motto to our business is at All Bodies Strong, you belong. And our goal is to help you feel safe, seen, and celebrated. And those things are really central to what we do, and it's central to that long-term vision.
We have a gym management software. Unlike most POS systems, with gym management software, you're kind of pigeonholed. We use a system called Push Press. It's actually a very good system. In the last few months, they've been making some really good updates. And I think it's just because gyms are actually growing in the country. I transitioned over to Push Press actually because they have a free system. It starts off, you can just take their system, set it up. It's 100% free at first. And then as you grow, you can make the decision for yourself or your business to go to their pro version. Their pro version has operations for payroll. It's got operations for hourly pay systems. It is a little pricey in my opinion, because you're paying 2 service fees. One is the credit processor, one is Push Press, and they linked. So you're doing them both under their system. For convenience, it is absolutely one of the best ways to go for anyone who's wanting to start a gym. But I would say Push Press I'm happy with them.